Wait, I'm gonna cover my eyes,
bro.
I want a raw
this one,
reaction.
guys, by far.
Oh yes.
By far. The
man,
the gem of absolute gems on the internet of like a live sales pitch that is fantastic for modeling.
How many views? How many views does this have?
A few million.
How many? How many?
I don't know. How many?
Do you know?
Do you know how many it has?
It should have 10 times more.
For sure.
This is literally
it's brilliant, dude. It's brilliant.
4.6 mil. Lightweight. This is gold.
So,
this is actually gold.
A banker. I'm not in the organic food business, but one thing I do know is there are certain core distinctions that run through every industry, whether it's your industry, whether it's computers, whether you're selling automobiles. Okay, so what we try to do, again, we have a client.
So something you might not know about this clip is that this was a staged sales pitch. And this firm from Australia was trying to, it was for Business Insider magazine or Fortune magazine or something, but these guys are based out of Australia, and they were commissioned to go around the world and find the quote unquote best salespeople in the world, gather them together, and then analyze the commonalities of their sales pitches. And so they brought Jordan in, and they're not giving them any context on what the pitch is. The context is this guy is a dairy. He has a company that sources organic dairy and produce in Australia. So he's trying to pitch this guy on being a client of theirs by putting their money with them, and they're going to do hedging strategies to increase those funds, obviously. So the interesting part about this was,
I understand half of that.
But whatever. We'll probably even cut that.
Wait. So Jordan knows.
But he was only given.
He didn't know going into it. So they just said, "Hey, we're analyzing the best salespeople. Come in on this day."
But they gave him a background.
Paid him it was like something like $50,000 to do it or something.
But they gave him a background. Like there was like some paperwork that he had to. Right. Not like before the thing.
So he comes in the day of.
Right.
And
day of.
He's like, okay, so what's the scenario? And they tell him it's a dairy farmer. You're going to be selling on putting their funds in your bank, and you're the broker.
Right.
And so he goes, okay, well, can I have like 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, sure. Yeah. Like takes them off guard. Right. Come to find out, no one ever asked for time to prepare. So the best salespeople in the world were just thinking. So he does this 3 times.
Yeah. He had like an hour or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So
he's just like writing everything down.
Are you ready? And he's like, yeah. I just need like 20 more minutes. Okay, cool. They give him 20 more minutes. So they come back. Are you ready? No, I just need 20 more minutes. Is it? So he prepares for about an hour. He's like, okay, I think I'm ready. So they walk in. He doesn't know this, but the firm has basically decided that under no circumstances will we say yes to the sale, because we want it to be as hard as possible to really understand what the best salespeople in the world do. So that's the context. It's like, under no circumstances are you allowed to say yes. Okay. Classic straight line from JB, but he basically comes in, starts off with the pleasantries, the greeting, then he goes into questioning, intelligence gathering, starts from broad questions, whittles them down to like very intense, like more personal ones, I guess. And he's gone through his first presentation, which features and benefits, logical case, and now he's going to close for the first time. I just thought, so pay attention to the tonality of obviousness and how he peppers it in to get agreement and make assumptions without the guy ever realizing it. So like he does it right here.
No, you're not just producers, you're marketers, okay? So you need to have
not just producers, you're marketers, obviously. And the obviousness.
Both elements of that equation wrapped up. Now, again, like obviously since I'm a banker, I'm not in the organic food business.
I'm a banker, obviously. I'm not in the organic food business, obviously.
But one thing I do know is there are certain core distinctions that run through every industry.
And then he goes back to certainty.
Your industry, whether it's computers, whether you're selling automobiles. Okay, so what we try to do, again, we have a client like you. We don't look at things, just hey, they're organic. So that's a separate. It's some things that are global. Like for instance, Mary Donovan, right? One of the things we did for Mary is we were able to save her a tremendous amount of money domestically and overseas on our commodities hedging. Okay. And on some of our currency swaps.
Okay, first off, I know this is basic, but he's drilling him with his eyes.
Yeah, the eye contact is very good.
Drilling him like he's 100%
very good,
genuine.
And what's really interesting, I've always found this interesting about him is it would appear that he stumbles over his words like a lot. But because the tonalities are so good, it just never matters.
Well, and it can also like aid you in some areas. I mean, like
there's a distinct stutter.
In my intro, I would like artificially add a couple stutters that I would just not even like, it was subconscious, but I just like subconsciously stuttered at the same exact spot at every point.
Organic.
Yeah. No, I literally stuttered the exact same spot every single time that I
because that is the key to a good script. Is it's in the spoken word, like you're writing it. That's again like any good script writer is going to not write it in the written word, like, but in how you would actually say it, like spoken. So there might even be things you're like grammatically just don't make sense. But it's because you don't need it to. People can connect the dots. In fact, you don't want it to if you're speaking organically.
The ways we did that is because we understand there are certain peculiarities to our industry, but at the same time, there are also some commonalities that apply to all industries. So we're able to come up with...
And how brilliant is that logical case, too? It's like, hey, I know nothing about your actual business, the dollars and cents, but I do know things that make businesses good. And that is what I'm...
But he's giving and taking, right? Like he's saying, on the one hand, I understand that there are a lot of differences between your industry and a lot of other industries.
And honestly acknowledging that is really cool. You're not pretending to be the same time, dairy farming.
Right. And then he's saying at the same time, there is, this. He's not just like absolute certainty selling him on his way of thinking. He's at least acting like he's open-minded. Yes. You know what I mean?
And how this is, this applies to like the doors or in sales is like, you're good at making the money, homeowner. And I'm really good at making sure the thing you're going to spend it on with me is the best investment that you've ever made for your house. So like, I'm not good at what you do. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a whatever. Yeah. I am good at making this the best return on your investment. Like that's my job.
The model that directly suited her needs that would address simple, not exact same market. So I think for you, if listen, I know over the long term we can do a lot of stuff for you, but I think I could best serve you by just starting off doing one thing for you. Okay,
this is so good. So and just the way you build up, like what he's doing is he's already lowering the action threshold. He's creating like a frictionless environment to make this decision, right? Because when you can make the decision so easy, that actually draws out what the actual objections might be. It's like, we know this isn't because it's hard to make this decision.
Right.
But what about the other things like in your life might be making it that way or something? I can try to do one thing for you really, really well. Mm-hmm. Like I don't want to interfere what you do with Titan. I'm sure they're great and everything. I know them. They're a very good, reputable company. Respect them. But we specify in something that's a little bit different. And one of the first things I'd love to try is take a look at exactly what you're doing with your commodities, the hedging strategies and the currency stuff. With the stuff you're doing both in Singapore, Hong Kong, and in China. Yeah. Okay. And I want to get in there right away, straight away, and I want to go in there and give me a shot to beat it. Like, let me work. Give me 30 days.
Give me a shot to beat him. That's certainty. Like he's just it's like it's this really elegant interplay between. I mean, charisma is built in the exchanges or the interchanges of tonalities as you're speaking. You know.
He also, I'm impressed with, like, he obviously did his research. Like, he knows the customer. He knows what the sale is. He understands, and like that's a little bit different door to door because, like, you're not going to know what the person behind that door is, what their exact objection is.
Right.
But understanding the types of customers that are very common, which really it's like the same like 4 customers that you run into, the same 4 prospects that you run into. So understanding what those objections could possibly be, understanding their situation, whether it's like for pest control, right? It's, you know, a switch over because they already have a company.
Yeah.
It's a DIY, someone who's doing it themselves, or, I mean, that's really generally it. Like,
well, and just knowing like why would anyone want this type of service? But actually, because we're jumping in kind of halfway through here, he actually finds out all the information in the sale itself.
Fact finding
with the intelligence gathering, fact finding, which is literally what we do anyway, right? It's like, it doesn't matter if you don't know what types of customers either, although it is really helpful. But
yeah, he did fact finding about like what they were doing internationally, and he realized he's like, oh yeah, they're thinking about going to China. They're thinking about going, like, it's a huge market. Yeah.
So he actually, the reason why he's so expert is because he actually just listened in the fact finding phase. Yeah. In the intelligence.
Wait, rewind that a little bit because I love what you said about the interplay.
Okay, and I want to get in there right away, straight away, and I want to go in there and give me a shot to beat it.
Boom. Pause it.
But it's like a quick certainty though. It's not very long.
No, because if he talked that way the entire time, he would would literally come across as the biggest jerk. Like he would burn relationships to the ground if you talked like give me a shot to beat it. This is blah blah blah. That kind of.
We're gonna come in here. We're gonna do this, and this, and this.
This is gonna be the best thing for you. This is gonna be the best thing for you. Are you doing it this way? Are you into China this way? No, you're not. Okay, this is what we're gonna do for you. It's just again like it's that kind of vibe where if he's leaving that out, he's not being persuasive because it doesn't come across as confident, and it doesn't come across as like as if he knows what he's talking about.
Right. And it doesn't give you the chance to like the reason why shifting tonalities is so important.
The reason why
shifting tonalities is actually so important is because it allows you to communicate like a crap ton of messaging to the customer that's very effective that they don't actually know is happening because it is going down to like the subconscious level. But then it reinforces what your verbal message is in a really powerful way. So that's why I always talk about like when you're writing scripts, you want the words to match the tonality and the messaging be the same because that's when it makes it super powerful. And then layer on top of that body language that matches the tonality and the words. And it's like, it's game over at that point.
Dang.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. And so would you characterize Grant Cardone as charismatic?
Yeah, I think I would.
Yeah.
It depends on your definition of charismatic. I mean, like just the. Yeah, I mean, assuming you wouldn't, because he totally talks in absolute certainty.
Well, yeah, I actually. So, in terms of is he more or less charismatic than Jordan Belfort? I think Jordan Belfort's way more charismatic.
Absolutely,
simply because of the shifting tonalities, and that's why people would characterize Jordan Belfort as beloved because he's charismatic.
People like Jordan Belfort a lot more than.
Well, I mean, do you remember that debate or whatever? You know, like
dude, that's we're
not even debate, but it seemed like a debate.
When we get into the salesman react to bad and great sales,
why did Jordan win? It was everything that we just talked about.
Yeah, because Grant Cardone will always be perceived as defaulting straight up a-hole because of
he's defaulting to absolute certainty. Yeah.
And this is nothing to say about his character. I actually really like Grant. And I've met him a couple of times. He's a really cool guy. And I had a decently long call with him once, which I don't.
No, it's just a communication style. That's all it is.
But when he's one-on-one with people, he's actually really kind. So he feels more charismatic when he's one-on-one. Anyway.
Interesting.
Small, start small.
Okay, this is the dude. I freaking love this close.
Hong Kong and in China. Yeah. Okay, and I want to get in there right away, straight away, and I want to go in there and give me a shot to beat it. Let me work. Give me 30 days. I'll do my trade small. Start small. Don't stop what you're doing. Put a small amount of your trades through me, and then analyze in 30 days the percentage gain. And if I'm even half as good as I say, I believe you'll be moving all your business.
What would you say? What would you say that tonality is?
That's not fair enough.
Which one?
Right before he goes into the
tritonal. That was a tritonal.
I mean, right before the tritonal close. What would you say that tonality is? Is it? Play it again.
And I want to go in there and give me a shot to beat it. Let me work. Give me 30 days. I'll do my trade small. Start small.
Is this Reasonable Man?
I'll do my trade small.
Is that Reasonable Man right there?
It's obviousness.
It's still the obviousness.
Obviously, I'll do mine small. So he's reinforcing the idea in an assumptive way that like this isn't big. Like you're not putting all your money with me right now.
But that's what Reasonable Man does.
Not yet, obviously.
That's what Reasonable Man does, though, too, right?
Reasonable Man is what's because he does Reasonable Man right here. I'll show you the difference.
Don't stop what you're doing. Put a small amount of your trades through me.
He actually goes sincerity here first, which is really interesting, and then he goes back to he does the full tritonal: certainty, sincerity, and Reasonable Man.
And then analyze in 30 days the percentage gain. And if I'm even half as good as I say, I believe you'll be moving all your business over to me.
Boom!
And that, so dude, this is why this is like the perfect version of sincerity, because like my version of sincerity, I go like even like a softer kind of thing, but he's talking at the same volume.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so brilliant, because like he's shifting and then he's going sincere, but it's like at the same volume still. And almost, right?
Yeah, no, it is. Rewind it again. I want to watch it again.
And then analyze in 30 days the percentage gain. And if I'm even half as good as I say, I believe you'll be moving all your business over to me after that. That sound fair enough?
So see how much more lighthearted the Reasonable Man is. It's way more friendly than what he's doing.
Than the implied obviousness. Yeah.
But it sounds the same, because if you were to analyze his voice on like a scale of notes and see where the pitches actually lied, you would be hitting very similar notes in your voice with Reasonable Man and Obviousness. And so like
so similar.
Hit the same register at points. Yeah.
But he's nicer in his. He's nicer in his Reasonable Man.
Yeah.
Really nice guy.
And he's really nice in his obviousness too. He doesn't sound like a jerk.
Sound fair enough?
Is that fair enough?
Well, I mean, I'm not particularly worried about where we're at in that space. I mean, what particularly would you want to be doing?
Well, let me ask you a question. First of all,
asking
takes control.
Dude, and asking the permissions, asking permission to ask questions. He's about to ask with I really want to know, I care tonality. No, I actually want to know. I get like, let me ask you a question. And you know what?
So what is that doing? What is that? If he answers that question, what does that do? Well, it takes, you have the straight line, right, which is the sale.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, he right now has been in control. There's a roadmap that he is following.
Yeah.
And he's consistent. If he answers that question, he's off the roadmap.
Yeah. So he's
gonna rephrase it. He's gonna make sure that the customer stays on the roadmap.
And the way you do that by saying, "Let me just ask you a question," is like what that implies is, what I'm about to ask you is relevant to the question you asked me.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
So like if a customer's like, well, is this safe for my pets? And I'm like, well, let me ask you a question just to make sure that you're making a good decision here. Well, I mean, what kind of pets do you guys have? Are they outside a lot? Yeah, it's totally fine. That's way better than if like, nah, it's going to be fine. Because what if it's not though? What if you have chickens? Like, yeah, they will die.
Or just saying the question, right? Like, yeah, is it going to be safe for my pets? What kind of pets do you have? Like,
that doesn't work either.
Yeah, because it's at me.
Because now you're scaring them off and like, well, it's confirming their suspicion. Right?
Yeah, you have to use the reasonable man. Well, hey, let me ask you a question. Like,
it's a transition.
I really want to know. I care.
It's transition. It's a transition mode. That's why, like, when we get an objection, you have to. Anytime the customer says something, you've got to neutralize it. You have to have a transition.
Transition.
People. That's actually a common thing. At least for our office this year, people like struggle with that. They wanted to jump in. They loved the roadmap. They're like, okay, great, and they wanted to jump in and start overcoming the objection before they neutralize it. It's just key. Otherwise, like you said, it's gonna make you sound like you don't like being alive because you hate your life.
You know what's so interesting? This like is exactly what we actually do. That's like what's crazy.
So that's why it's
we
really
follow
it's
this
like dude, no, our training is not the straight line. It's very actually different, but it's really compiling all the elements of human persuasion and influence and what it takes for someone to make a decision. And then on the other side of that, from the salesman's perspective, being able to change the tone of your voice, your body language, and say the correct words in order to make it the highest likelihood that person makes an optimal decision. Well, I don't remember because it's been probably a year since I watched this. I think he does the hypothetical tonality in this question though. Because he first asked, well, let me just ask you a question. Like, I really actually want to know.
Okay, rewind.
And then I think he goes hypothetical.
I'm even half as good as to say, I believe you'll be moving all your business over to me after that. That sound fair enough?
Well, I mean, I'm not particularly worried about where we're at in that space. I mean, what particularly would you want to be doing?
Well, let me ask you a question. First of all, does the overall idea in terms of, of us advising, not just in one area, but all areas, make sense to you that we could be an asset over the long? Does that appeal to you?
Well, I guess
dude.
It's freaking fire.
Okay, so you know how it's like, that first transition after you close the first time is like, do you like the idea and does it make sense? So at first when I watched this, I'm like, oh, he doesn't ever ask, do you like the idea? But he does though, because he says, does that appeal to you?
Yeah.
Does that appeal to you is saying, do you like this? Like what I just said, do you like what I said? And does it make sense? Because when you get a yes to that, you're simultaneously getting a yes to
both of those questions.
The logical reasoning you just presented.
Yeah.
And that just confirms that you're like still in it. You're still in the
Or you get a no, meaning that you don't actually understand the logical certainty that I just laid out for you, right?
Yep.
Which means you're never going to pull forward. Yeah. If he bulldozes over this objection, or it's really not, I mean, it's technically a buying question. I mean, really, right? Because he's asking, oh, what are you going to do for me? If he bulldozes over that, right, then he doesn't give himself the opportunity to understand what the customer actually understands.
Yeah, 100%.
To then address it, right? So you always got to be on the same wavelength. Even with door-to-door, I mean, obviously this is, B2B sales, but for door-to-door, even like a 6-minute cycle, we still have to make sure we're on the same page.
You're always meeting the customer where they are. I mean, but this, dude, I love this transition after price. After we give price, that's why it's built in with the hypothetical. Let me just ask you a question. I really want to know. And then you go hypothetical. I mean, does it at least make sense? Like, do you like the idea potentially? But he's saying, does everything I've said make sense about like the overall hedging strategy? Is it appeal to you at least?
Well, that's what's great. You can literally use this in any sale. You guys know this, I used to sell gym memberships. I'm just picturing like, I mean, door-to-door is like, I'm so glad I do what I do.
How good were you at selling gym memberships?
I was really freaking good.
And how much more money did Hiram make than you being a tenth as good at what he was doing versus
Hiram
at the
made
time?
I was very bad at my first year, and I made double.
So, but anyways, no, I'm just thinking like even if I'm selling a gym membership, which is a completely different sale from what Jordan's doing, completely different sale from like pest control, but it's still like I'm sitting there trying to sell someone a gym membership. All right, like what do you say? Let's get this done. Does that sound fair? Whatever. And then whatever their objection is, it doesn't matter what their objection is. They can literally be like, you know what, man, like I'm not going to be able to afford like a gym membership for a whole year. Or, you know what, man, like I just got to think about it. Like I got to chat with my wife. Like I got to see if like, it doesn't matter. I just ask, well, hey, let me just ask you, like, do you like the idea? Like having seen the gym here, like, do you like the idea? Does what I've said kind of about it and like getting in shape, does that like make sense to you?
Could you potentially see yourself going with us at least down the road, or like signing up maybe later?
Yeah. Does it appeal to you? Does it like make sense? Any objection that anyone gives ever in any sale, you can use this transition.
Dude, and that I think is what, so I always talk about how my close rate increased by like 30% or so when I started applying this to the first objection in the back half of the sale.
Yeah.
Because everything up to this point is the front half. Then everything after this is the back half. This is where you roll up your sleeves and earn your commission. Is this part of the sale, right?
Yeah.
But I'd never understood how to overcome those objections because I just wanted to address them head on. And I'm not very good at thinking on my feet in that way of like one-liners for every little objection. So this was so cool because you can literally say the exact same thing in the exact same way for any objection. It can be spouse objection, give me a card, I don't want to do it right now, I'm not interested. Like, okay, well, let me just, ask you a question, based on everything I've said so far, like, does it at least make sense, the idea of what I'm talking about with like treating at the source and doing this? Like, could you see yourself going with me down the road? Is it appealing enough to consider it at least? And what you're doing is saying, in the hypothetical world that you did have money, or that your wife was on board, or that, you had more time, would you do it then? And that's so non-threatening that now they're actually going to tell you how they feel. That's why it's so brilliant.
Yeah.
And how did that play out here? It's like the guy just tells him how he feels, actually.
Yeah.
All areas make sense to you, that we could be an asset over the long. Does that appeal to you?
Can we pause real quick? It's really important also. I just want everyone to understand. Jordan is waiting for this guy not to say yes. He's not saying, he's waiting for the objection or buying question. That's what he's waiting for. That's in his mind. I know that's super basic.
All you're trying to do. No, it's not though.
That is
everyone
crucial.
Right here, they leave because they're just pissed.
Yes.
I didn't get the sale. And like they're so mad. But like,
you need to have arrows in your quiver.
Closer, dude, is like, I know I'm not getting so here. If I do, great, and I will a lot of the time. But I know I'm probably not going to get it here. But I still need to assess where they're at, and that's what this objection cycle does.
Asset over the long. Does that appeal to you?
Hypothetical.
Well, I guess it certainly does. It just depends on what it's going to cost us.
Right. Well, exactly.
Boom. What did he just do? He just revealed the issue.
Oh, okay.
He just revealed what was on his mind.
He makes a mistake right here. Can you catch it? What he does wrong, and then he corrects it within like a millisecond.
Wait,
watch.
Does that appeal to you?
Well, I guess it certainly does. It just depends on what it's going to cost us.
Right. Well, exactly. And of course, cost always in the end.
The mistake he makes is that he goes too extreme with his. He doesn't match the tonality of the customer first. And then he drops it down. He realizes that, and he drops it down. Because the idea is like when someone responds, you want to match them at the tonality to pace lead, and then bring them up into. But he actually goes like too hot. He comes in too hot.
Well, I think the vast majority of customers would be like, yeah, it makes sense. And so he's like, exactly. So I think he was planning on doing that.
He was anticipating him being a little bit easier. Yeah. But watch though how he comes in too hot and then he tones it down.
Yeah.
He recognizes it.
Well, I guess it certainly does. It just depends on what it's going to cost us.
Chill. Yeah, it certainly does.
Too hot.
Immediately, right?
And then he pulls it down.
Also the value you get for the cost, right? Yeah. But one of the things we pride ourselves on, okay, just as a company, and the true beauty of what we do is that every transaction that we
pause it. He's not
he's so good,
bro. He's not addressing cost. Like,
no,
everyone else is going to go into like, oh, okay, well, he just mentioned cost. That was the issue. So I'm going to go like attack the issue.
The cost.
Well, let's talk about cost.
But
he's like irrelevant. That's not what I'm going to do.
Brilliant,
I'm in charge.
This is so brilliant because even though he kind of comes in a little too high, he corrects down. Because the whole point of this transition is when I say like the hypothetical tonality lets you see how it makes them honest in their response. It's not with their words. It's with the tone of voice and how certain they are. So when the guy's like, I mean, yeah, I figured, blah, blah. So he's like, he's not very certain, right? So Jordan comes in a little too hot, drops it back down, meets the guy where he is in his own certainty. And then this transition is, classic with the real beauty. And now watch how Jordan raises his tonality to bring the guy up in certainty. It's fascinating.
Right, we're right.
Meet
Again,
people where they are, pace them again, and then you lead them up.
Yeah. So he's addressing. He's overcoming the objection. The guy just gave him the objection. What's on his mind? He overcomes that very quickly.
Yeah,
very quickly. And I would argue, okay, maybe he repeated it
and
somewhere.
He kind of reiterates.
Maybe he could have done it in a better way because he kind of stumbled over his words a little bit.
Sure.
But he overcomes it. Kind of transitions, and then again, the beauty of what I say. It doesn't. Again, once again, after he asked that question, he is waiting for the guy to tell him what the issue is. Or an issue, right? He's waiting for that, and he knows exactly what he's going to say. He's going to overcome the issue because he knows before he even does this that price is probably going to come up. So he knows what he's going to say before as price comes up. He says it, and then again, we're not going to talk about price yet because I haven't convinced you yet.
Yeah,
you don't want to buy yet. You're not fully bought into the value yet, right? That's literally what we do.
We're looking always at two things. A, to keep costs down as much as possible. Anything, whether it's brokerage, hedging.
but he is going to button up logical certainty first.
No, exactly. That's what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just pointing out he'll do that.
Both the short-term and long. Does that make sense to you? Do you like that program?
So checking in, right? Because before you go to the Forrest Gump, you always want to check in. Does that make sense? Like, you see what I'm saying here now? At least, like, is this better? Right now, do you get it? Why all my customers are signing up?
Pause real quick. There's something that there's a phenomenon where people are so hyped about getting their customers to say yes a lot of times because somehow that means they're gonna you're gonna trick them into saying yes.
Yeah, is the sky
it's
blue?
Like, there's 15 yeses means I'm gonna get the
Will
sale.
You buy from me? Oh yeah.
Oh
dude,
yeah. I guess I've said yes 10 times, so I guess I'll say yes on the 11th. That's not what he's doing here. He's not looking.
You can't even argue that concept is misunderstood. Like, sales trainers are teaching it one way and people are understanding it. It's like, that's literally how people will teach
it's misunderstood.
I'm really being satirical. Obviously, I'm taking it to extreme, but that's what people say is just get them to say yes multiple times and they'll make it easier. It's like, no, get them to agree voluntarily that the things you have said make sense.
Yes. So say them in a way
that's your problem
where they were going to
sales rep.
Yeah, exactly. And so what he's asking, the way he's asking this, again, it's utter sincerity. Excuse me. It's I really want to know tonality.
Right.
Because he really wants to know. He doesn't want the customer to tell him yes
1000%.
if he doesn't believe it. Because that does him nothing.
Yep.
Makes sense to you? Do you like that program?
I mean, look, in theory it sounds good, but I mean, at the end of the day,
again, to assess where the customer is at, because you can't help them get to a different level of certainty unless you assess where they're at.
It's a pretty simple business model, actually. So I'm just wondering if it's all a bit too much and too complex for us.
Right. Right.
We've run it pretty successfully in the past by following a pretty simple model.
Right.
So yeah, I'm just not sure.
Well, let me say this. I hear what you're saying.
Bro, listen, look at, do you see the smile? It's like you just said the best thing you could possibly say to me right now. Yeah.
And I like to pride myself on being a guy that takes medium-sized companies and turns them into big companies. And that's really how we make our money. All big companies, once were medium-sized, once small companies.
We always tell our guys, the best time to smile, is your intro. And right after you get an objection.
It's like,
it's the best time to smile. If you can grin at someone right after they told you why they don't want to buy.
If they trust you, that works really well. If not, then you're
right. If you've been screwing up, exactly, yeah.
You're like, no,
you're gonna make it like you're laughing.
Listen, let me tell you why you shouldn't.
Yeah.
But instead, it's like, hey, I've got this thing, and we've got pets and stuff. I'm just actually concerned about them. That's why we've never signed up for something like this. And you're like, listen, I don't want to jump the gun here. But I think you're really gonna like this. And here, the reason why. Actually, let me just first ask you, dude, what kind of pets is it? Okay, cool. Well, I want to make sure this is so good. That's why I'm asking. But you're gonna like.
Yeah. So okay, fundamentally, why is that the case? Because if you aren't happy about that, what does that say to them? Mm-hmm. That makes you nervous. Yep. Why? Because people have told you no before, who've said that same thing,
which validates
their
objection.
Really,
exactly,
invalidating it with a smile.
over the long term in the way of taking you public, providing you bond financing or notes that you need for overseas transactions. We can be an asset to your company over the long term. And I just personally about myself, I pride myself on holding my clients' hands every step of the way. I deal, as you know, from Mary, only on referral. I'm not a cold calling machine. Okay, it's all long-term relationships, and I know this. I'm going to be.
Dude, that's so brilliant. Because when would be the perfect time to do the phrasing a declarative as a question tonality, where because it's assumptive, you're right, is like, I work on referrals, right? Obviously, that's why I'm so good at what I do. That is how I do my business, is that people refer to me. People refer their friends to me or whatever.
I didn't even catch that.
No, it's brilliant. It's like that you're firming up that idea without ever having to say all those words. And listen, I just spoke a paragraph about that, but that's the message that he gets with that one tonality and 2 words.
Not a cold calling machine, okay? It's all long-term relationships, and I know this. I'm going to be judged basically on one trade. If I say, hey, let's do some business together, give me a shot for 30 days, and I'm wrong and I stink, you'll fire me as one of your bro. We'll never speak again. We'll shake hands. Hey, it didn't work, and that's that, right? And just so you know, my commission on 30 days of business, and this is after I stood with the firm and the government, I can't take wife out for lunch.
It's so good, dude.
This is after I stood with the firm and the government, I can't take wife out for lunch in Australia. I'm not getting rich, okay? But I know this. If you see what I could do for you in 1 month, just small, you're not going to get rich or poor, but the percentage gain, okay? You'll see you have a broker that was willing to work for you, harder for you, more diligently than anyone ever has. And all I ask is that then, down the road, when I really kind of get into your business and see the bigger opportunities, you give me a shot bigger and better down the road.
Pause it. I mean, he is
gosh,
bro,
dude.
Jordan
So
Belfort. Wait, pause it.
So good.
Pause it. He is like doing a ballet between absolute certainty and utter sincerity that is more beautiful than any ballet that's ever been done. It is just hand in, how do you say that? Hand in hand, just
hand
perfectly dancing, hand in glove.
Glove in hand. Glove in
Honestly, bro,
on
can you
face.
see this? I mean, the way that he is absolute certainty and then dancing back to utter sincerity and then back to absolute certainty, it's just
so good.
it's
And
amazing
again,
to watch.
notice
It is
that-
a masterpiece.
I talked about this before, just the certainty to obviousness, or you mix in some mystery and intrigue there to obviousness, then back to certainty. It's like, it's so powerful because you declare something that is believable in how you say it, and then you say, and obviously you should know this, right? And clearly this is true. And then you declare it again, and clearly this is true.
It's like if I want to tell you 2 things, if I want you to believe 2 things, one of them I'm going to say as if it's obvious, and the other one I'm going to say as if it's new. And if this is I believe,
if you're certain
I
about
believe
it.
this
Yeah.
100%.
Because
right?
what is certainty if not just declaring an actual fact with your tone of
Right.
voice?
So at the bare minimum, you're gonna believe the one that is obvious, right? If you don't believe it,
When you do both,
at least you're gonna believe one,
Jeez,
right?
dude? So good.
Yeah, exactly.
We're just gonna finish with this close and we'll go on to the next clip.
Okay,
We're taking
okay.
a long time with this one, but rightfully so. It's really good.
Broker that was willing to work for you, harder for you, more diligently than anyone ever has. And all I ask is that then, down the road, when I really kind of get into your business and see the bigger opportunities, you give me a shot bigger and better down the road. Does that sound fair enough?
What do you think is possible in 30 days? I mean, how much can you do in a month?
Not a question of money, it's a question of percentage savings. In other words, listen, let me ask you a question. Right now, how much are you currently...
Again.
So, but notice this is
Just
exactly
gonna-
how we have it built into the script too. Is he now addressing the objections head on? Yes.
Why?
he
Because
gave it, what,
first
3
objection
times?
after your first close, that first objection, almost always you assume it's a smokescreen, and so you deflect it and get an honest answer of how they felt about what you've already said. Then you button up logical certainty, and then you button up a couple other things with you as the salesman, company to back up what you're saying, that sort of thing. So the 3 10s, and then right here on this objection, you always address it. Always right away.
Why?
He's quick.
Why? Because we know it's real.
If the guy's still
'Cause he's
listening,
repeated
he's
it.
still engaged, and now he's asking questions with more certainty, you for sure address what he's going to say next
Yep.
because it's actually real. Now
Yep.
we're talking about real concerns, and he'll do that throughout the rest of the thing. And secret of it is when they finish, the girl starts laughing because he agrees to the sale.
Yeah, because he has nothing else
says
he can
yes.
say.
And they start laughing, and he's like, "Why are you guys laughing?" Basically, that's kind of the look on his face.
Yeah.
And then they tell him after the fact. I actually talked to Jordan about this. He says it in a couple of his trainings, I think, because I've heard him say it publicly, but I talked to him in person about this, and he He's like, yeah, they weren't supposed to say yes. And so I was taken off guard because they started laughing. And he's like, why are you guys laughing? He's like, well, this guy's only job was to say no. And you somehow made him say yes.
Only job. By the way, that's like just, if someone continues to change the objection, then you know it's a smokescreen. It's not an actual valid concern. But when they
because
repeat
they've defeated you, they've defeated you by addressing it. They're like, "Yep, gotcha. I'm just going to go to the next one because eventually you leave."
Yeah, exactly. So all they're really telling you is when they change objection like that, or when they change their smokescreen, all they're really telling you is, "I don't trust you. I don't respect you." So when they finally repeat it twice, that's when they're giving you the actual concern, and then you resolve that. That's how you sell someone. You can't believe people the first time. You never believe the customer the first time they say something. Once they repeat it, then you know it's valid.